Welcome back. In this part we are going to save our results to a text file. So let's get to it. I plan to have just a single save button in our window align fragments right here. So in our top panel, which must be somewhere, I guess here, yeah it is, we are going to add a toolbar tray because in future I plan to add even more buttons. So toolbar tray, okay, it's going to be in the center, so grid column 1, because here will be tools for our source fragments and here will be tools for our target fragments, and these will be common tools. So its vertical alignment will be set to center, and in order to avoid dots I will set is locked to true. Well, I mean this part, which allows you actually to drag, and we don't want it to drag, so we don't need this control at all. Inside a toolbar tray we will place a toolbar. We will just place a button and we'll give it a name, for example button underscore save, and we'll give it a tooltip save, and of course we need to give it a click event. Okay, press F12. Alright, and inside we will place an image, because we will use an icon instead of text. From my GitHub repository you can import the needed images. I already have it in my images folder. I just need to include it. So include in project. Alright. Okay. And now I can fill this image with the source. So source equals / images / and the name. So save blue.png. And also I will need to limit its max height to 16. In our click event, I think it's time that we add some dark opacity variable, because we are going to darken our main window and show a new, I think it's called modal window on top of it, and the rest will be darkened. So private const double dark opacity equals 0.5. Okay, and let's make a summary for it. So it's opacity used to darken this window. Oh, and we also need to add a new window. So right click on your project, click add, and window. And here let's name it window underscore save. And let's move our new window to the Windows folder. Alright. And now let's go immediately to its backend. This window will save our results. In order to do it, we need to operate the fragments, and it will operate with them when we pass these fragments to it. So, well, I guess we can do with public fields for now. So actually it's a bad practice, but for now I will go with it. So public list of type source fragment, and let's call it source fragments, and let's leave a summary. Oh, actually we need to put it inside a class right here. So it's a collection of and source fragment, and for reasons that you will understand in the future, we will do it a bit different way for target fragments. It won't be a list, instead it will be item collection, and it's a collection of target fragments. Now we can pass data to it. So we can go back to our window align fragments here. Oh, we will also add a new private member, a collection of source fragments, because right now we have only strings, which are then converted to source fragments. Private read-only. It's going to be a list of source fragment. Let's name it M source fragments collection, and it equals to new list and source fragment. Okay, and let's give it a summary. So it's a collection of source fragment. Now in our method, when we in our method called create fragments and fill list views, where we convert string arrays to actually source fragments, we will add here, before we add it to the list view, we will add it to the newly created list. So add the fragment to the source collection. So M source fragments collection dot add and fragment. So as you see, it is added twice, one for UI and one for our data that we can pass. Now let's fill this button save click event. So first we will darken this window. So we will set the opacity of a window to our variable mdark opacity, which is right now 0.5, and then we will create a new window to see results. Yeah, let's create it. Var win equals new window save. Okay, and let's set the owner to this window, and we will not show it in taskbar, because otherwise we will have two window tabs here and semicolon here. And after we created the window, we can actually pass source fragments. Win.source fragments equals M source fragments collection. Alright, and then we will pass target fragments. We will do it, as I said, a bit different way. So win target fragments equals list view 2 dot items, and then we will show the save window. So window dot show dialog. Okay, and after we have shown it, this means that after we close it, we will restore the window's opacity. So restore this window's opacity. So just set opacity back to 1. It's the default. Then show in taskbar again. So set show in taskbar back to true, which is again the default option. Well, let's see how it looks now. Okay, let's fill some data. Actually, it doesn't matter now. Our save button, and here is our window, and the owner window is darkened. And as you see, we have only one here, and if you try to go to it, you go here, and after you close it, it's back to normal. Alright, now we actually need to make a markup for our window save. We can go a short and more consistent way and copy the markup from our window Y. So we can copy everything starting from the title up to the end or down the end. So title here. Okay, we don't need it anymore. Well, let's start with separating these properties into separate rows. So we want to change here a few properties. It's not by dbline, it's actually window save. Height, let's change it to 180. Windows startup location, we actually want it to show not in the center of the screen, but in the center of the owner. Now our outer grid, I guess we will need some bigger buttons. In our border, we need to drag our window. We check if left mouse button is pressed, if e dot change button equals mouse button left, Then we will drag this window. So drag this window, drag move. And if you are wondering whether you can use other mouse buttons, well, if you hover over this method, it says that it is dragged by a mouse with its left button down. Back to our UI. Instead of by dbLine, we will change it to save results. Button cross. Where is our click event? Here. Press F12, and the only thing you need to do here is just to close it. Here goes. So this is our top bar, this is our bottom bar, and this is our content here. We will have two equal rows. We will also need grid column definitions because I plan to have two fields here. So here will be two labels and here will be two fields. So we need 4 cells. Grid column definitions, column definition, and another one, and the left one will be of auto width. Now we don't need this grid at all. We can just delete it. We will just create here a text block. Okay, it will be in grid row 0, in grid column 0, and we will add a bottom margin to it, because I'm going to have another text block below it. This will be a special text block because it will consist of a hyperlink, which we will be able to click to open the folder where we are going to save our file. Put a hyperlink here. Alright. We need to give it a name, so hyperlink open folder. We also need to give it a tooltip. Well, we don't have to, but it's a good practice. So tooltip open folder. We want to remove text decorations. Set it to none. By default, I believe it's underlined. Put our text here, save to, like this. We don't need this button. Here will be a single field, but here will be a field with a button at the end, so that we can browse where we want to save our file. Grid, we'll put it in grid.row 0 and grid column 1. Grid column definitions, and here, oh my, column definition. And another one, and we will have a button here, so we want to set its width to auto. So here we will create a text box, so we'll put it in grid column 0, and we want to give it a name, tb_location. We'll give it a tooltip, and the tooltip will be the same as the text. So we want to bind this tooltip to the text of the same text box. So first of all, you will need to use binding text. This is the property, but you want to say that the relative source for this binding is, in curly braces again, relative source self. Back to our, let's give a click event here. So new event handler, and press F12. We are going to open the folder that the user specified. In order to achieve it, we will use process start. And because the user can type something which is not valid, we want to put it in the try catch block. We will catch any exception, ex. So what we try is to open the folder where a new file will be created. Well, simply speaking, open the folder that is specified in this text block. Process. We need to include a namespace for it. System diagnostics. So process.start. And here we could just insert a path, but if it is illegal, it will throw an exception. But it will throw an exception even if the folder does not exist. And in order to open some default folder instead, you will need to specify the process explicitly, like explorer.exe. And then you will pass the path. Here we can pass the path using path. It's not in shapes, it's actually in system.io. So path.get directory name, and we get it from what is written in tblocation.txt. Okay, and if we catch any exception, we will show an error message. So messagebox.show and ex.message, because we do not want to include some weird debug text. And we will add caption for it, like error, and we want to add an icon of error. So message box image dot error, like this. Okay, now back to our UI. We don't want this hyperlink to be active when we don't have text here. We will change isEnabled property. So we will need to bind to the element name tb location to its text. So path equals text. Let's try it. First of all, we will check what happens when we insert some illegal path. Okay, first of all, as you see, it does not react at all. It's always enabled. What happens when you pass something illegal, like a white space? The path is not of a legal form, and this is the exception that we caught. And because we caught it, it will not crash our program. But if you put something legal, like d nothing, yeah, it will open. So as you see, the binding does not work, and that is because we are trying to bind the isEnabled property to a string text, and this is of type string, this is of type boolean. So what we need to do is to create a converter, string to boolean. That converter will check whether the string is empty here, and it will return a respective value. So we will create our converter in window resources. Oh, by the way, let's create some styles here, because right now our UI elements do not look very good. Let's create a style for a text block first. Oh, style target type text block. Okay, we will just change the vertical alignment and set it to center. Okay. Next, we will create a style for a text box. So text box. Okay. And we will change instead vertical content alignment to center, and we will add left and bottom margins. So margin equals 5 left, 0 top, 0 right, 5 bottom. And also we will create a style for buttons, but we want to modify the base style. So style target type equals X type button, which is based on, and to access the default style, static resource, and in curly braces X type button. And also note that, as far as I know, it does not work like this in UWP. So I just want to change margin here, and it will be 2 on all sides. It does not affect this button because this uses the style called blue button, but we will have another button to cancel the saving process. Okay, so back to converters. Create a new folder, add new folder, converters. It's bad. Converters. Okay. Alright, and every converter is just a class, so create a new class and let's call it empty string to boolean converter. Okay. Right away put it in converters. Alright, so well, first of all, every converter should be inherited from I-value converter if it is of single value. If you don't see the needed suggestion, press Alt-A or press this button, and here it is. So pressing Alt-A when you are in the suggestions mode gives you also results that are not in the present namespaces. Press Ctrl dot here and select Implement Interface. We will allow passing parameters to it. So if there is no parameter, which is default, if parameter equals null, then check if the passed string is empty. So you do it like this. If value, currently it's an object, so convert it to string. If it is equals to string empty, so if it equals to string empty, we return false. So it is empty. If it is not empty, we return true. And it may be not very intuitive, so we will add an option with a parameter. So if there is a reverse parameter, it's not default. Else if parameter dot to string equals reverse, then we will check if the pass string is empty, then we return true, and here we return false, which is vice versa. And if we pass some different parameter, so if there is another parameter, we will throw an exception, I guess. So throw new not implemented exception. Now back to our UI. So in our window resources, we can now access our local. Local is just a namespace defined in our XAML here, and this is the namespace used in our code files as well here. So local empty string to boolean converter, and we absolutely necessary need to give it a key. Usually I just copy the same and make it lowercase. We just need to rebuild it. Okay, and back to here. Path equals text, and we also need to convert it using a converter called empty string to boolean converter. Right in our designer it's already disabled. Well, if you want to know more about converters, you can check my value converter basics video, which is the third in the basics series. Well, let's launch and check it. So now, as you see, when we have some text, it is enabled. When we do not have any text, it is disabled. And if you wonder why I bound the tooltip to the same text, is because when we have really long path, we can't see it completely. We can see it full by hovering the mouse over it. Now you see that the converter and the binding that uses it both work. Now we need a button to set the path, the file type, the file name, and so on. Here now we can create a button. It will be in grid column 1, and as you remember, its width is set to auto. Its name is going to be button underscore browse folder. Tooltip. Again, it will be an icon button with an image. Browse folders to change location. Let's create a separate style for image buttons. So styles, buttons. At the end we will add a new style. So style, target type, button. Its key is going to be image button. Okay, it will have, all we are going to change for now is the cursor. It will be set to hand, and that's probably it. Okay, let's finish this button. So style, static resource, image button. Margin, we will add a button margin, so 0005. We will add a click event to it. Press F12. When we click it, we will create a new save file dialog. So var save file dialog equals new save, press Alt A, save file dialog. Okay. Oh, actually, let's modify it. Add extension set to true. Filter. And you need to understand that if you're going to allow to save your results to a database, there is always a chance that the user does not have any database engine. And in that case, you need some, well, fallback. And usually I use plain text files for that. So plain text file. This is the only type that we are going to work with today. So star.txt pipe star.txt. In the next part, I'm going to add some support for Microsoft Access to its alt type MDB. And if you wonder why MDB, why not the newer, I guess, ACDB it's called, and that is because it's a lightweight version of it and it works much faster, and I think it weighs sufficiently less. So star.mdb pipe star.mdb, comma here, and also the default name will be file name untitled txt, because we have txt first here. File name equals. Alright, so after we create this save file dialog, we will want to create behavior for when we press save or OK. So create behavior for pressing the save button. So save file dialog, file OK, plus equals. Now press tab here and enter. Okay, so it auto-generated a method. Okay, let's fill this method. First of all, we cast the sender to save file dialog, and we do it like this: var save file dialog equals save file dialog sender. It may be more safe to use sender as save file dialog, this one, but I absolutely sure that it's actually a save file dialog. Then we get the extension of the file name, so var extension equals path get extension, and we get it from save file dialog file name. Now we check if neither .txt nor .mdb is selected. So for example, if I typed .docs or something like that, which is not supported. So if extension does not equals .txt and extension is not mdb, then we will just show an error. show an error. So message box show and unsupported extension. Okay, and let's just copy this. But if the extension is supported, so else, we will put the path in the text box. So tb_location.text equals save file dialog.filename. Now back to our UI, we will add content to this button, and we will put an image here, and we need to import another image. Again, you can get it from my GitHub repository, and source equals /images/ and copy its name, and its height will be set to 24. After the grid, this is top left cell, this is top right cell, now bottom left cell. We will add a text block. It will be in grid row 1, grid column 0, text equals table name. This is actually useful for a database, but I guess we can include it in the txt file as a header as well. And again, let's add some bottom margin, 0005. Here we will add a text box. So it will be in grid row 1, in grid column 1. Its name is going to be tb_table name. Its text is going to be, the default table name will be table 1. So after the content, we will create here a grid because we need 2 buttons. Grid, put it inside. So it will be in grid row 2. So let's give it margin of 5. And it will consist of 2 grid column definitions. So column definition. Okay. Now this button, it will be in grid column 0. Its name will be button save. Its content will be save. Its style here will be blue button. Its margin will be 5. Its click event will be save. Okay, press F12. So here is where actually the save logic will be conducted. So we first check if the directory for the future file exists. So if directory dot exists, and we check path get directory name from tb_location.text, then we get the extension. So var extension equals path get extension tb_location.text. And if you wonder why we do it again, and that is because we can specify one name when we select file, but then we in theory can change the name here because it's a text box, and the extension as well. So then we check the extension. So if plain text is needed, and as I said, we work only with plain text today. So if extension equals .txt, then we create a new txt file, and for that we will use a stream writer because we are going to create and immediately write to it. So using var sw, which is stream writer, equals file dot create text, and the path will be tb location dot text. And I put the using keyword here because I want the stream writer to close after we finish working with it. So we write the table name to the file. So stream writer dot writeLine. Again, it's not necessary, but why not use this field as well in our txt. So $table name and, well, tb table name dot text. Okay, and then we iterate through all source fragments. So for int I equals 0, I is less than source fragments count, and I++. And what we do here is simply add the source fragment and the corresponding target fragment. So first column and second column. Actually, we can have different number of source fragments and target fragments, and as I said before, source fragments will be more important, so we iterate through them. But of course, if you have 1a, then 2b, and then you have 3 but no c, so no value here, you will want to have these values separate. So what I mean is we need to create a separate variable for the second column. So text that will be written if there are target fragments. So var second column, by default it will be equal to string.empty. And well, actually in future we need to replace with a target of a source fragment, because it's not will be just line matching. What I plan to do is have some custom matching, and well, but for now, if there are target fragments, so if I is less than target fragments count, then we add tab, which is like this, and target fragment. So second column equals dollar, first goes tab, and then target fragments I. Okay, after that we write a line to the file. So write a line to the file. So stream writer dot writeLine. Okay, and again dollar, and here we put source fragments I, and then second column. What a nice suggestion we have here, but we don't want space here. Okay, all right, so after that we actually, do I need to put a semicolon here? Okay, I don't know why it does not give me an error. Maybe just in case I'll leave it there. So then we show a message like, well, message box.show file saved. And then we close the window. Okay, so this was in case we have plain text. Now, in case we need an MDB database, so if database is needed, we will do something different in future. Else, so if the extension is not supported, we again show an error. Here. So unsupported extension, okay. So, and that is all if the directory exists. But if it doesn't, so if the directory for the future file does not exist, so else we again show an error. So, but the message will be different. Directory does not exist. The saving process for txt is implemented. Saving to access database will be implemented later. Well, not in this part. And actually, well, browse folder, I guess, yeah, it's, yeah, silly me. So show the save file dialog. So save file dialog dot show dialog. 3 different scenarios. Scenario 1, equal number of source and target fragments. Okay, untitled. Alright. Okay, and save. File saved. Actually, I need to open this folder now. Let's check it. Yeah, so here is our table name, and as you see, they are tab separated. Okay. Now, scenario 2, and that is when we have 3 source fragments but only 2 target fragments. Well, let's check it like this. C, 4, 5. Okay. Okay, but if you check the same with a slightly different scenario, so 1, 2, 3, and here A, B, C, D, E. Again, we removed empty entries, but what I wanted to show you was this. We only insert those target fragments which have corresponding source fragments. Alright, so that was it for saving for today. And the final little thing that I wanted to show you, well, as you remember previously we have looked at how to implement auto updater, and you will also might need auto checker. So in your app.xaml.cs, when we show our splash screen, we can actually here implement auto update mechanics. It's not necessarily will update the program, instead it will just suggest to update it. So, and again, we will launch a separate file using process start. So we cannot really control that, so we absolutely necessarily need to put it in the try catch block. And what you simply do here, while your splash screen is visible, you just use process, press Ctrl dot, start, and you launch your update program, for example update.exe, and you use well, I don't know what parameter you're going to use in your program, but for example it can be silent. The difference between this and data sources, so somewhere here must be our update button here. Here we manually press the button. Here it launches the file automatically. Here we will open a window from the program, and it will go to some website, check the version, and if it has a newer version it will suggest to update, and if it cannot open this file it will open the products page. But when we launch our program, we do not want to every time launch a website if we don't have an update program. And also we don't want to show a full screen window. It will launch silently without a window frame, and if there is a new version it will very calmly suggest that we can update our program. Do we need to do it or no? And if we press no, nothing happens and we go to our main window. And if we agree, well, the program can close and the update process can start. But just as before, we don't have an update program, so we need to comment this out, because otherwise we will show errors every time we launch the program. Alright, so that's it. Well, thank you for watching, and if this was helpful, please share it, and see you next time.